joining us again here tonight at Potomac Station Coffee House. We have a great show coming your way. I'm Valerie, that's David, and this is our Gen X Pittsburgh Podcast. Tonight, our special guest is Murrin. She is the president and CEO of Rivers of Steel.
I'm glad I can just say Mary from here on out.
I know.
Right? Yeah.
So I'm so excited to have her on the show tonight. She has quite the resume.
She does.
And she's still building that resume.
And this is like my favorite spot in the city, and I'm not lying about it. My wife and I love the Carrie Blast Furnace.
Oh, yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah, it
cool.
is. Yeah, so I can't wait to talk more about this.
I know.
Yeah. But do you know what today is? Today is June 30th, for whenever this gets on to Spotify and YouTube and everywhere else, right? But do you know what today is?
No.
Today is the anniversary of the soundtrack of Singles being released.
No way, it is.
It is.
Wow, that makes me feel old.
So that's like the quintessential 90s Gen X movie.
Yes, it is.
Here we are with our Gen X podcast.
I love it.
And I thought I would bring that up.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah. I keep track of these things.
I know you do.
This
You're
is
so
what I
good
do.
at it.
Yes,
You're so
this is
good
what
at
I
that.
do. And unfortunately, my AARP app tells me about some of the Gen X things as well, right? Which is sad.
Well, I will tell you that when I put into Google today, I put in cool Gen X things happening in Pittsburgh. Our podcast came up as the first thing, so that's pretty cool.
My son does not believe that.
No. Anyways, we're going to have a great show with Mary.
We are.
Cannot
Looking
wait.
forward to it.
All right, we're going to take a quick sponsor break, and we'll be right back. When I need a coffee that actually shows up and a suite that understands commitment, I head out to Potomac Station Coffee. Everything's made in-house, always fresh, and yes, that cinnamon roll, you're eating the whole thing. And the ever-changing latte menu is legendary. Check out Potomac Station Coffee House next to the tracks in Dormont. Podcast with Mary Murrin, President and CEO of Rivers of Steel. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Very excited to have
So
you.
I think in the dictionary under Boss Babe is your name. I swear to God, you have quite the resume and you are still taking this. I love it. Thank you for what you're doing. This is amazing.
Oh, you're very welcome. One of my sons calls me the CEO.
That works.
I love that. I love that. So we always start off by asking our guests to tell us about their growing up and where they grew up, how they grew up. But I want you to go back a little bit further than that, because I was reading you have a very interesting way that your family came to the States. You have a very cool background. Can you start with that?
Yes. So my great-great-great-great-grandfather, Hugh Murrin, was from Donegal, Ireland, and came to the United States in the 1760s. In the late 60s, and fought for the colony of New Jersey in the Revolutionary War, and then bought about 1,600 acres from Robert Morris, who I did not know till recently owned most of the land over the Appalachian Mountains when they were trying to send people west. So for generations, they were, subsistence farmers. Maybe a little distilling, things like that. And in the 1890s, they struck oil.
Wow.
Enough oil to move to the city of Butler. They were a little bit north of Butler. But it was a great story because my grandfather then read law at Grove City, and then he had 7 children. 4 of them became lawyers. Some of them became teachers. And it was an opportunity to be educated.
Sure.
They'd obviously always been smart, but you worked the land and you did what you had to do. You built a church and you had a community. But so I was taught that education was something to be proud of, and to know that not everybody has that opportunity.
Sure.
Right.
And then on my mother's side, she was first generation. Her dad was a coal miner from New Kensington. He had come from Italy and never finished grade school because he was very busy working in the mine as a 12-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah. And he ended up out at Alcoa.
Yeah.
And little cute story about my parents. They met at Harvard.
Holy
From
cow.
Butler
Yeah.
and New
I
Kensington.
know, that's amazing. I love
is.
that story.
It
Nice.
is. So they just happened to be there and got introduced. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, education.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. So tell us about your growing up. What was life like for you?
So I was raised in Point Breeze, born in Butler, but moved to Pittsburgh, the East End, when I was 4. I have 3 sisters, and I was raised Catholic. We went to there is such a thing as a progressive Catholic group. It was, because there's only one kind of Catholics,
Right.
good or bad. We went to the Oratory in the
Okay.
East End of Pittsburgh. And so my parents were both raised Catholic, but they weren't big Catholic school advocates. But huge public school advocates.
Right.
So went to school in Squirrel Hill for a little bit, and then they decided it wasn't diverse enough. So I went to Park Place School, which is on Braddock Avenue. It's now an environmental charter school, but it was organically in the 60s, 70s. Homewood, East End, blue collar, then the, fancier people on one side. But it wasn't just racially diverse, but it was also socioeconomically
Right.
diverse.
Yeah.
And it was a great experience. And then I went to Alderdice High School, and I was the editor of the Alderdice Forward, which
Oh,
is,
yeah.
of all the things in my career, that's one of the things I'm most proud
Yeah.
of.
Wow.
I like to tell the story that it came down to me and my classmate named Erin Zittner. And I got selected. And I realize now, Mr. Wells, our counselor, head of the class, decided I would be very, very good at logistics. Because back in the day, you had to go down to typecraft printing
Yes.
in Oakland and lay it all out.
Right.
Yep.
It had nothing to. I didn't get picked because of journalism. Aaron Zittner did.
Right.
But he was the writer. He's now a tremendous writer for the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
So I joke with him a lot about how he got passed over because I was really good. At
Right, because you could do print checks.
Yeah.
Right. That's amazing.
You went to Brown, and then you interned at Alcoa.
At Alcoa.
How cool was that?
It was so cool. And the person that selected me for the internship was a graduate of Brown who had been a reporter in Memphis, Tennessee, and was in PR for Alcoa, and he offered me an internship.
Wow.
Which was paid.
Yeah, which was amazing back then.
Which was amazing in 1984.
Yeah.
And I got to live in an apartment on the north side, right by what is now Nova Place.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And I'd walk across the bridge every day to go to work at the old Alcoa
Yes.
building. It was great.
Yeah.
It was just amazing.
Were you one of the few women? Were there a lot of women there when you were
There
there?
were women in communications.
Yeah.
And there were a ton of secretaries.
Yeah,
So
right.
there was that.
Right. So
Yeah.
did you go to school for communications, journalism, English?
English.
Okay.
It was a straight up liberal arts class. And it was a tough time in the 80s. So I always thought I'd probably be a lawyer, like ran in my family.
Yeah.
But I'd take a year or two and figure out what I was going to do. And I never left. I've been in
Yeah.
communications my whole career. But I think it was, writing was I was curious. My friends still to this day call me, okay, you're going to have to pause here and go, who's Superman's?
Oh,
Lois
yeah, Clark
Lane.
Kent.
Lois
Oh,
Lane.
Lois Lane. I'm thinking Clark Kent.
No,
right?
they'll say Lois
Yes.
Lane because I'll ask a million questions and sometimes I'll say, Mary, could you just stop and let me tell you my story?
Yes. Yes.
But I was very curious, and I learned early on. I went from Alcoa to Westinghouse, and through 20 years with technology startups out of CMU,
Yeah.
and then Chevron, and now where I am now. But I realized that if you asked questions out of genuine, authentic curiosity, people would just get engaged
Right.
and tell you stories. At Westinghouse, the guys back in the day with the pocket protectors, and
Yeah.
all engineers would, I'd ask a question, they'd be like, yeah, and they'd answer it, and then I'd ask another one, and then answer it. And by the time I got to my 5th question, they're writing on the board and
Right.
sitting down with
Right.
me. And so I
Right.
was a translator. I was
Yeah.
able to take highly technical information and make it accessible to English majors
Sure.
like myself.
Yeah, so
Very
my
cool.
mother worked at Westinghouse right after secretarial school.
Yeah.
And she has this story about during the Cold War. It was her first job. But during the Cold War, there was a secretary pool. This is back in the day when they had, a room full of secretaries all typing. and each secretary would only get a piece of a letter, so that in case they were captured by
Oh my
the Soviet
gosh.
Union, no one would know the entire letter.
That's wild.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's just the kinds of things that don't happen anymore.
Well, here's something else that doesn't happen anymore. So I'm at Westinghouse out in Waltz Mill on Interstate 70.
Yep.
And I've been married for a year or two, and I'm pregnant. And I'm in this low-slung building that looks out onto a field with a nuclear reactor in the back that has been deactivated or whatever you call it, decommissioned. And I'm getting a little nervous because I'm pregnant. So I go to this engineer who's just come in from, Idaho, from a plant in Idaho. And I said to him, I'm pregnant. Should I be nervous that I'm sitting across from this nuclear reactor? He goes, oh, sweetie, you got to worry about everybody smoking cigarettes in the office. So that was more dangerous.
Right. Well, I'm glad to hear that your friends, though, gave you a little bit of a hard time, because to this day, every time my wife and I go to a dinner party, she says to me, look, nobody wants to be questioned like you're a reporter. Keep quiet.
I
let
can't
them
help
talk.
it.
Yeah, I understand.
David likes to chat.
Yes. Well, I like to ask questions.
It's
That's
different
what
from
I
doing
like.
talking about yourself, which I am doing now. Thank you very much.
Sure.
But it's mostly I just want to hear what makes people tick and what got them where they were in life, whether it's a rough time or a good time, just like what makes people
Right.
move and think.
Right. Right. So you were at Westinghouse, and then you went to where after that?
Well, so I was an at-home mom for about 5 years, and then
Was this in Houston?
no, I was in Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh,
I was
okay.
in Pittsburgh until 2018.
Okay.
Lived in Regent Square, Mount Lebanon for a bit, moved back into the city.
Okay.
Always in the city.
Yeah.
Raised my kids there, but I was at home mom, and then it was time for me to go back to. I was ready to go back to work, and went back as a contractor to Westinghouse, and then they divested of everything. Mm-hmm. And I read an article in the Wall Street Journal about something called a startup out of Carnegie Mellon University.
Yeah.
And you got to wear tennis shoes,
Yeah,
and you got to pick your kid up at the doctor's,
Yeah.
and you didn't have to work downtown. You could work in some cool place in Shadyside.
Yeah.
So I literally wrote a letter, typed up a letter. I had a computer, so but before the internet. So I mailed it, and I got a job at the startup, and it was called WiseWire. It was originally called Empirical Media, but it was a search engine company that was bought ultimately by Lycos. Do we Gen X?
Yeah.
And then they wanted to move me to Boston when they got acquired, and I basically said, no, I'm not going to move 5 times, and so changed companies 5 times.
Yeah.
And that was my 20 years in startups.
Wow.
How did Rivers of Steel, how did you come across this position with them?
So I was with Chevron in Houston. I'd been there 7 years. I was supposed to be there 3. And Chevron sold all our assets to EQT.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so I was supposed to be there 3 and come back to my boss's job.
Yeah.
I was never coming back here with Chevron.
Right.
I liked Houston for a while. I was doing my thing. I really missed it here.
Yeah.
I really missed it here. And I like saying that I was always here by default. I went away to college, met a guy, came back, got married. I always loved it here, but I was here by default. Being away was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
I loved being away, and that was great. But when I came back, I was intentionally coming back to this place I loved. So that was my experience.
I'm correct, aren't I, that Chevron started here in Pittsburgh, and it almost bought U.S. Steel, if I
didn't
remember.
know that.
I
That's
think I'm right
awesome.
about that.
Well,
that-
so Chevron was created in 1984.
Okay.
It was fairly new.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was shortly after the merger of Gulf, Standard Oil, and a couple other ones.
Right.
Standard was out of, I think, Ohio. Was it Ohio?
Yeah.
It was Rockefeller.
I'm
I
going
can't
to say
remember.
sure. Yeah.
Somebody out there know. But they created Gulf, Chevron out of Gulf.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
I mean, I read, do you know the economist Chris Bream?
Yes.
We had him on our show a few weeks
He's
ago.
great, I know.
Yeah, and when I was reading that book, it was really fascinating to me that Pittsburgh didn't start. I mean, it was a steel city, but it was really an energy city first.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these companies that in my head, I always associated with Texas, actually had their starts here in this, in Pennsylvania. But then as coal became less of the dominant energy source, they moved obviously west.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some of it was logistics too. So I know it was a bad word back in the day. I had to take. I'll be up front and say I'm a centrist, left-leaning Democrat. I had to take people out for coffee and beer to tell them that I had not lost my mind joining the
I'm
evil
sure
empire.
You did, yes.
But part of it was the story of my family, that
Right.
energy and hard work can get you into a position
Yeah.
where you can
Heck yeah.
have a better life. But anyway, what I learned was fracking, which was big here. Chevron learned so much about how to do it because it's hard to do here.
Right.
You've got this kind of
Yeah,
land.
yeah.
You've got 10 people that own mineral rights, and you got to
Right.
spend months getting enough acres to build it. So Chevron learned a lot here, and then went to Texas because it's easier.
Sure.
It's flat.
Yeah.
The land is owned by 2 people. You can get 35 pump jacks in there with
Right.
with 2 owners.
Yeah.
So it's just easier. It's more
Right.
and the politics are more
Yeah,
friendly to
yeah.
it. So it had a
Sure.
lot to do with geology, and politics is why they left.
Yeah.
Not that you can't do it here; it's just harder.
Right. Right. And so, take me from Chevron to Rivers of Steel.
Yes. So
yes.
to
Yeah.
get back to your question, so I was looking to move back. I went to DC. I worked out of the DC office for a bit. My mother was, her health was declining. I wanted to be close to her, so I worked out of Chevron's office. But I started to put out some feelers that I wanted to find something either in DC or Pittsburgh. And 2 of my friends, within 5 hours, texted and said, "There's this job posted. It is so you." And I looked at it and I thought, yes, that is so me, and I will never get it. Number one, I have never worked for a nonprofit.
Right.
I'd been on boards,
Yeah.
and I'd led a board, but I'd never worked for one. And the other one was I was a Gen Xer.
Right.
They're not going to hire me.
Right.
But they did, and I went through a very rigorous process. We have a great board.
Yeah.
2 or 3 series, and I'm so thrilled to have gotten it. It's the best job of my life.
And you've been there for a little over a year.
A little over a year.
Fantastic.
And I like to say that, so the Rivers of Steel has 4 assets. One is Carey Furnaces, one is the
Right.
Boast Building, which is a Victorian hotel, the pump house, and then a forge in Rice's Landing. But my office is in an 1891 hotel / restaurant / casino / brothel
Wow.
building that is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And so I like to say I went from this glass tower, which is the Enron
Right.
Tower, which is
Yeah.
Chevron's office in
Yeah.
Houston, to Bailey's Building and Loan out of It's
Wow.
a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah,
I love
that's
it.
amazing.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Well, so Rivers of Steel was started by 4 people, right, in like the 80s?
Augie Carlino, my predecessor, who's a remarkable man, started it with legislators.
Okay.
John Hines was part of it, Bill Coyne, Mike Doyle had some say in it, but it was the mills were being torn down,
Right.
and somebody asked the question of, do we really want to tear them all down?
Yeah.
And so he was there from the beginning, and it became a heritage site, and over time they acquired a few more assets. But he was there from the beginning, and
Yeah.
he was a lobbyist on the Hill.
Yeah.
So his whole focus, and he did it very well, was getting funding, getting
Right.
designation as national and state historically remarkable.
Yeah.
So he set the organization up for remarkable things.
There had to have been a lot of foresight because there were these huge mills that were taking up a huge amount of real estate. No one was quite sure what was going to happen to them, but they knew they wanted to get rid of them. And for somebody to say, slow down, let's figure out what parts of this we want to save so that we'll have it for history
Yeah.
is remarkable.
It is, and it's more complicated than you would think,
Yeah.
David. I didn't know this till I joined, but in my first year, I took every tour of Carey Furnaces that I could fit in, and I learned so much from the guides, but also from people asking questions.
Yeah.
And I always assumed it was the developers, Park Corporation, that came in and said, we're gonna scrap this stuff, make a ton of money, sell
Right.
it. It's time for a shopping center. It's time for this, that, the other thing. But one woman who was in from California said to me, her grandparents were from Rankin. And she said her grandfather wanted the Carey Furnaces torn down. He said it was too painful to look out his window and see the skeleton
Sure.
of this structure that had been a family sustaining entity and gave the people the
Yeah.
dignity of work for 3 generations, and now you're looking at it. He wanted it torn
Yeah.
down, which was interesting to me. I wouldn't have thought that people in the community
Sure.
did. She said he changed his mind around 2000 and got a little more sentimental
Yeah.
about it, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because for so long, the region tried to hold on to this idea that the mills were going to come back, right? When I worked at KQV in
Oh,
the
wow.
early 2000s, no, this was the late 90s, as the debate over the new arena, I mean, the new stadiums
Yeah,
are going
yeah.
on, right? People were coming in, not just people from Rankin and Braddock, I mean, legislators, senators, right, are coming in and arguing Pittsburgh doesn't need stadiums. We need to bring the steel mills back, right? And it's like they were a step behind. It was never coming back.
It was never coming back.
And it took a long time, it seems like anyways, for the city to figure out what we have here. This isn't just broken steel, this isn't just deserted. This is something that needs to be memorialized in some way. And probably that helped the city grieve through some of the process that it had
That's
to.
a very good way to put it, to grieve through. And if you've been raised here, I never thought of manufacturing and industry as technology, but something else I heard on a tour is somebody said, you do know that Pittsburgh was the Silicon Valley of the United States at the turn of the 19th century? I never thought of it that way.
Right.
I thought of it as grit and
Yeah.
Right.
making something. That was high tech back
Sure,
then.
that's right.
So part of the extending it, I think, is recognizing that this really unique spirit of innovation and hard work got us where we were and is continuing to get us where
Yeah.
we're going.
Sure.
And it's just in our blood.
Right,
It's
right.
in our blood.
I also think it's interesting. When I wrote the Beehive book, I interviewed Tim Collin.
Yes.
And
The deer head.
Yeah, that's right, the deer head, right? But he told stories about when they were deconstructing the J&L mill. He would just walk in and take hunks of steel because nobody had thought about, it's probably not a great idea to just have people wander in and take steel
Right.
from, right? Because this kind of mass disassembling of industry had never really happened. I mean, on this scope, right?
On
Pittsburgh
scale.
was all at once, and it was a long time, and it was all at once, right?
Oh, it was terrifying. When I left for school, for college, there was still all the mills coming down the
Right.
Parkway to downtown,
yeah.
and when I came back, there was the sulfur smell was gone,
Right.
the rotten egg smell, and they were just sitting there, and it just like that.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Did you ever imagine that the abandoned mills would turn into a destination?
No, but
I know.
it's people
It's so
are
cool.
walk in. I mentioned I have 3 sons in their 30s, but they walk in and they walked in the first time. And I'm like, wow, that wow factor. And myself,
Yeah.
I had passed them my entire life, but I had never actually walked up to the door of a mill. And it's a wow factor that really
Yeah.
is fascinating. When you
Yeah.
mentioned Tim Collin, the other thing that's really been interesting to me is this organic connection between manufacturing and art,
Right.
which
Oh,
we would
yeah.
have never thought. But
That's right.
it's so organically changed into metal arts and
Oh, yeah.
scrapping to build the beautiful
Right.
deer head that they did at the Cary furnaces. It's very organic and just happened, and that's beautiful too.
Yeah.
And it sort of is a story of Pittsburgh too.
It definitely
the art
is,
museums
right.
and the art cultures that came out of the robber barons, for all they were
Right.
good and bad, created art, and it's not,
Right.
it's ironic that it came from their industry.
It certainly is. I think it's amazing that you needed to have this collapse for Pittsburgh to become what it is, right? Because it was artists like Tim who would take hunks of steel, or it was people that went into these deserted warehouses and had exhibitions, art exhibitions, or art all night, right? And
Yes.
but not for these deserted spots that no one knew what to do with, this wouldn't have happened. And
That's right.
because of that, Lawrenceville becomes something, right? Because of that, the South Side finds a second or third or fourth life, right? That would never happen but
Yep.
for the collapse of the steel mill.
That's right. And Etna and
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So, but back to Rivers of Steel, the Mon Valley was left behind.
It
And
was.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was.
It's time for those community spirits to be
Yeah.
taking hold in the Mon Valley.
Yeah.
So that was important to me too. But so 2 friends told me about it, and it's far broader and far more fascinating than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Why did a nonprofit speak to you after all of this other experience that you have? What?
That's a great question. It was really about purpose. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, when I was working for Chevron, I was very committed to the purpose. I ran social investment for them here. We had $20 million we were investing in the community, and we focused on workforce development because we were bringing up people. Our supply chain was bringing up people from Oklahoma and Texas, and we were saying, well, how about if we hire, that kid out of high school that lives in, an old coal town that's been underemployed or unemployed for generations. How about if he makes $100,000 a year pipe fitting? So I was passionate about that. But back to Rivers of Steel, I think it was my family history and an appreciation for that hard work ethic, my pride in being from here, and the excitement of the people. So many of our staff and volunteers and part-time people, we have about 25 full-time and 40 part-time, and then lots of volunteers, are people that came on as volunteers or broke in and built something and just fell in love with the place and the history and then stayed. So the people that I work with are just so inspired every day.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
So is there, you have the 4 properties, and I'd love to hear more about them because I was aware of the Cary Blast Furnace. I don't know about the other 3.
Yeah.
But if you were talking about the Mon towns, right? McKeesport, Wilmerding, all these places have some form of industry that sort of collapsed, and now there's maybe a building, 2 buildings that are left. Is there any thought about saving those? I know that in Wilmerding, for instance, George Westinghouse has a castle there, and the castle was his home, I'm assuming, but there's been a lot of talk about what to do with that. So I would assume it takes not-for-profits at this point.
Yes, or community organizations,
Right.
chambers of commerce. I mean, there is a lot of discussion, collaboration. County Executive Innamorato announced Mon Valley Forward. There's a lot of legislators that are behind that. Obviously, the Nippon partnership with U.S. Steel is hopeful. I actually think, too, that having our new, Mike McCarthy, our new Steeler coach from the Mon Valley might be a boost.
Sure.
But I think there has to be a little more of a lens on it. For some reason, it just never got that lens.
Right.
I mean, New Kensington and Allegheny, so much is going on up there with breweries and arts.
Oh,
Right.
The Allegheny does, the Ohio does, but it just has not made it. And maybe it's because the feeling that it's dirty,
Right.
and it's gritty and it's hard to get to the water and all of that.
Yeah.
But
All
there's
things
a
they
truth.
should say about Pittsburgh, though.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
right?
I know.
Right.
I interview people. Many years ago, I interviewed people for a story about why they moved to Pittsburgh. And this was in the mid 2000s. So, I mean, I'm talking about if 2026 is late 2000s, this is, 2006, 2007. And there were young families moving here where they didn't even know that Pittsburgh had been a center for steel, right? And that imprint that you're talking about, that drive on the Parkway, that smell of sulfur, it doesn't exist.
Right.
And so they had no idea. And we've done such a great job with the brownfields and with, all of the warehouses and all of the property in Pittsburgh proper, that there's no semblance that it was this gritty, really dirty town. But like you said, McKeesport and Duquesne and
Edgar Thompson
sure.
Yes, that's still going on up there, and you can see it.
Yeah.
But people don't spend a lot of time doing fun things over there.
Right,
They pass
right.
through it.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's
I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, we're making you an expert on steel, right? But that's probably not what you do on a daily basis.
Right.
I would love to hear what you do on a daily basis.
What I do on a daily basis is tell the stories,
Yeah.
or work with the people that tell the stories.
Okay.
So the good news is when you take over something from somebody that's been there 35 years and has a different skill set than I do, in some ways it's easy because there's lower hanging fruit that you can make some big change, not because it was neglected, it just wasn't a focus before.
Mm-hmm.
So at Chevron, after I was in social investment, I did communication for our chief digital officer. I worked for digital and technology companies at CMU. And I thought, we need to get some systems in here and move things along. So a lot of what I'm doing is making some digital transformations, hiring people that are focused on revenue generation projects like our tours and metal arts classes and education. We sort of because we're a heritage site, heritage areas are not designed to make money for the organization, it's for the region, because most don't have a property. Well, we have 425-year-old properties, and it takes some cash to keep those things standing.
Right.
So I'm focusing on how can we take the stories, inspire people, and get a sustainable growth opportunity to take care of them while bringing people in to do fun things. So hired a great marketing person, a new head of tourism that are just not Gen Xers, and they are just full of life and thrilled to be doing what we're doing. So I'm still in that stage where I'm looking at what can be, what can have added efficiency, what can be, we can be more nimble at. That kind of, a business lens. I'm bringing a business lens. And not that my predecessor didn't have one, but I'm more focused on that probably because of where I came from.
Right. People, place, purpose.
There you go. That's right.
Yeah, you're very big on that.
I am.
Yeah.
That is right. That's right. I am.
My first experience with the Kerry Blast Furnace was, I'm sure it was a rental, or it continues to be a rental, but the Irish Festival.
Yes.
And then I think
that's coming up in a couple weeks.
I know it is. Believe it or not, every time I'm there, I say to myself, I say to my family, we're coming back every year to whatever this thing is that we're at the festival.
It's amazing.
You know, after the Irish Festival, we've been going to the Festival of Combustion. That is so amazing and such a I can't call it a secret because there's hundreds of people that are there when we're there.
Thousands.
But it's amazing. Yeah.
All ages. People bring their kids to show them blacksmithing, and we have a band and food trucks, and it's really.
How did you come up with that idea?
It wasn't mine. Yeah. It's been around for somebody way more in tune did that, but it's been around a few years, and it's the one we do. So the Irish Festival is a rental.
Right.
Beers of the Berg is a rental. Quantum Theater is about to do the Tempest there. That's a rental. We've had some funky things like ninja stuff and motorcycle
that's right.
stuff.
American Ninja. Yeah, that's right. I forgot
those
about
are rentals.
That.
The Festival of Combustion is our thing.
Yeah. And is there anything else that you do? I mean, I was thrilled to see that there either was or going to be an exhibition called Babushkas and Hard Hats.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not it's not an exhibition. It's a tour, and we do them once a month, and it's beautiful. You start at the Kerry furnaces, and you learn about the making steel and the labor. A lot of what we talk about is immigration. How it started with the UK folks, and then it went to Eastern Europeans, and then women during the war. It was primarily African American Great Migration workers by the time it closed, but the history of the immigration is fascinating. And then what they do is they take you on a tour of the churches and the roads, and they say, you know how if it's a steeple, it's a Christian one. If it's got these globes, it's Eastern Orthodox versus Roman. And you learn about the architecture and the pierogies and
oh my gosh,
where people lived up on the hill, and you see the little coal houses and the row houses. So you learn about the culture and the and the work. It's really fat, and it's very popular. Very popular.
Yeah.
If you could take a Gen Xer on one of your tours, which one would it be?
Can I say two?
Yes,
of course.
you can.
One would be Babushkas and Hard Hats, and the other is the Battle of Homestead.
Okay, yeah.
So the Battle of Homestead is why two of our locations are historic landmarks. The Boast Building was where our office is where the Amalgamated Iron and Steel Union was hunkered down, waiting for the trains to pull up with the strike breakers when the barges pulled up. And then the Pump House, which is the red circular building at the waterfront, is where the first shots were fired. The first person died fired there in the Battle of Homestead when they came up in the barges. Yeah. So the Battle of Homestead, you start at Kerry Furnaces and learn about what was being made there. And you learn that workers were working 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week. So you're in a very, very dangerous place, and you've worked 12 hours. Imagine how horrifying that would be. Yeah. It's already dangerous enough. So they talk about the labor. The strikes were very much around just needing some kind of moderation in how they worked. I mean, certainly it was about money and things like that too, but it was primarily like we need some structure here. So then after the Kerry furnaces, you go over to the Pump House, and they describe what happened. That the strike breakers came into Bellevue on the train, and then Frick and Carnegie. Frick was actually here. Carnegie was back in his mansion in Scotland, and they put them on the barges. And a lot of these workers didn't really know. They thought they were going to work.
Yeah.
They didn't know they were going to
Wow.
to be shot by
Holy moly.
a strike.
Wow.
So then you learn about that, and then our fabulous tour guide Barney says, "Okay, now everybody get in your cars. We're going to go up to Clayton, Henry Clay Frick's house, and notice how you go uphill the whole way."
Right.
And so next thing you know, you're sitting in Henry Clay Frick's office looking out at these beautiful trees in Frick Park, and you get this tremendous contrast of how the people on the ground lived and how the people on the hill lived. It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's so many of these Pittsburgh neighborhoods, redlining was such a real thing, you know, immigrants, minorities on the bottom, and as you go up and up, and because it's Pittsburgh, like you said, it's all hills, right?
Yep, you get to move
further
up the
and
hill.
further up.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Out away from the dirt, away from the smog.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other very cool thing about Frick, I'll give a shout out to Amanda Gillen, my counterpart at the Frick. I grew up in the neighborhood near the Frick. I'm old enough to remember when we were playing in the Bowling Green and this, you know, piece of heavy equipment came in and started, you know, breaking up the ground, and that was the museum. They were building the museum. Helen Clay Frick, she would come. You knew she was there when her limo was in the portico under the.
Yeah.
But anyway, but for years the Frick tours didn't tell the whole truth. You would go into Henry Clay Frick's room and they'd say, "This is where he convalesced. Okay, now let's move on to the next." I always thought he had the flu, he got some virus. That's where he was when he had been shot.
Right.
So now they have a little towel beside the bed with, you know, faux blood on it, and they're telling the truth. It's called Gilded Not Golden.
Oh, that's really neat.
So we're working with Frick I think there's much more opportunity to share our stories and bring in people that are interested in both sides of that story.
That's really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Mary, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
We're going to let you have a sip of your coffee
Okay.
there, and we'll be back in just a minute. We'll be right back. Where do Pittsburghers go to make a good night even better? Con Alma in downtown Pittsburgh, where the lights stay low, the jazz speaks for itself, and the kitchen is on point. Come early and stay late, and let the night do the rest. That's Con Alma, downtown Pittsburgh. Welcome back to the Gen X Pgh Podcast. We are here with Mary Murrin, President and CEO of Rivers of Steel. Again, this is so interesting. God, I'm learning so much. I can't wait to take a tour.
Yeah.
Well, I love your enthusiasm.
I know.
Mary, I remember when I was leaving one of my jobs, my manager said to me, "Your resume looks like a lot of bad telephone connections." And he meant that as an insult. I didn't take it that way. I was thrilled to be making the changes I was making. But your career has been so interesting, and the way it sort of worked throughout the city as well has been interesting. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yes. Like most of us, we probably didn't plan where we landed. But my career certainly followed the trajectory of the economy in Pittsburgh. And part of that is right place, right time, wrong place, wrong time. But the ability here to always find that next thing has been a gift. And then I also learned the resilience of, what are you going to do? Sit around and feel sorry for yourself? You're going to brush yourself off and go again. So I started again. I worked for Alcoa in an internship and got a offer in Indiana, but I was getting married, and so I wasn't going to leave town. Then I went to Westinghouse. They divested. I went to 5 startups. Some closed. One was bought by Nokia. I had a great experience traveling internationally, but then they wanted me to move to Boston. So you had to come up with the next thing. And then honestly, by the time I had 20 or so years in startups, I had 3 sons. One was in college. The other were eventually going to be. I'm divorced. I'm thinking, you know what? I never quite made that million. Now you'd say 3 million at that startup. I should probably get a job with a really nice matching 401k or something like that. So I started to think, maybe I need to go back to more structure. I was also getting older, and I thought, you know, you're not going to be able to change jobs every 2 or 3 years as you age. And Chevron was new to town. I had worked for Carnegie Learning, which is a software education company, and I did a lot of work in rural communities, finding grants for Wi-Fi and computers because we're an online. So I knew a lot of people in those communities, and Chevron liked that. They were like, oh, you can go into these rural communities. So that too was a stepping stone, which you would never plan.
Right.
But I think if somebody asked me for advice, if my young people and one of my kids asked, I'd say just keep your mind open and always be looking at how you connect those dots between organizations and what you like to do, what you do well, who you know. Pittsburgh's a big who you know thing,
right, sure
area. But it really worked out. There were some scary times, but but it's worked out. And landing where I have in my third act couldn't have gotten any better.
Right, sure,
couldn't have gotten any better.
Yeah, and I know that your professional career is one part of what you do, but so is your volunteerism, right? And could you talk just a little bit about some of the boards you're on, some of your passions, those?
Yes. So my first great board experience was with Quantum Theater 25 years ago. There was an organization out of Duquesne University called Boards by Design, and it was like a match where you tell them what you like and they go out and find what, and they'd connect you.
Wow.
And having gone to Alderdice, I knew great choreographers and directors and musicians and writers, so many creative people there. I wasn't ever going to create that kind of art and art as well. But I loved being surrounded by it. And theater and music were big for me. So I joined with a business lens and was there until I moved to Houston in 2018. Ended up, I was the head of the board there for years, still on the emeritus board, an amazing organization. I was on the Carnegie Library board for it. But when I came back to Pittsburgh, I had some interaction with Paul Siefkin, who's the head of Fred Rogers Productions. He was in Houston when I was with Chevron looking at some projects we could do at the Children's Museum there. So when I came back, he asked me if I'd be interested in joining the board. And it was so meaningful to me. My mother was a PBS junkie. Yeah. And there's a great story about when I was probably 8 or 9, I had two younger, not younger, like 4 or 6 years younger sister and an older one. Our TV was always on WQED. And when I was like 7 or 8, I went down to my friend's house and I came back and I had just watched The Brady Bunch and That Girl. And I came up and I went, we had a black and white TV. I went up and said, Mom, did you know you can turn this? So I think that's why I got asked to be on the Fred Rogers board, because I could recite every episode he ever did.
Boy, did I have a crush on Marla.
Marla Thomas.
Marla Thomas, that's right. Yes.
She was fabulous.
She sure was, yes.
Yeah.
She and Donald.
That's right, Donald, that's right.
Pittsburgh has reinvented itself several times. What do you think's next?
What do I think is next? I think there's going to be a meaningful resurgence of workforce development opportunities. People that want to work with their hands, that want to create something, that want to build something. Granted, it's not going to be the hundreds of thousands of jobs. When I joined Westinghouse in 1985, 86, Pennsylvania had 123,000 employees. Right. With Westinghouse alone, 120. Right. Chevron today is 40,000. It's a global corporation. Right. So anyway, that's kind of crazy numbers. So it may not ever be, we're not going to get back to that industry, but there are a lot of really meaningful, important jobs that I watch our trainees in our workforce development program. They're really inspired. A lot of women in it. I think the next generation of people don't want to sit behind a desk every day. I know so many that say, I'm going to do this till I'm 40 and make a ton of money, and then I'm going to go do something I really want to do. Well, I think we need to shift that and say, what, you can make good money and do what you really want to do now. So I think there's going to be a shift towards opportunities to build things, including clean energy systems, modular, localized energy is going to happen. That's going to take some construction. Farming and green spaces is making a comeback, and not that it ever went away, but I think there's going to be really creative, interesting ways to work that are new. Yeah. Are new. Or no, maybe they're very old. Right. I correct myself. Maybe they're very old. We're going to go back to waking up and getting dirty every day.
Right.
What is something that Pittsburgh has gotten right over the past 30 years?
30 years. That's a good question. I'm going to sound a little sentimental here, but I really did think when I went to Houston that everybody's city was friendly and kind and nice. And it's not always here, let's be honest. But I think there is this culture of stopping when you're walking down the street and saying hi, and smiling at somebody or asking if you can help them. That is unusual. Maybe we've always gotten that right, but I think with, or not always gotten it right, but I think it's always been a part of who we are. But I think with social media and the Pit, television, I think we're getting some visibility for that. And again, I think sometimes we take that for granted. When I was with Chevron, we had just opened the offices here, and a lot of us ended up in Houston, and more than a dozen people said to me over the years, because they knew I was from here originally, that stopped me in the hall and they'd say, yeah, when my family and I were transferred from Kazakhstan to Moon, we're going to Moon, someplace called Moon in Pennsylvania. We didn't know where we were going. These are people that had lived in Texas, Louisiana, Kazakhstan, Angola, London. And so many people said we would go back to Pittsburgh in a second.
Sure. Yeah.
A lot of people move away and come back.
Yes.
It's something we do.
Right.
And the other thing that I think we do really, really well is have a very diverse arts, theater, community experiences. People that I worked with that have lived in major cities all over the world said there is more going on in Pittsburgh on a given weekend than anywhere else I've ever lived. So I think maybe the friendliness is part of that, but I think encouraging people to create opportunities and experiences around small groups that may get bigger, may not, but there's always a way to find something to do.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, I think what's great about Rivers of Steel is that you're connecting the past and the future, right? You have the heritage of things like the Cary Blast Furnace, but you also have the workforce development that's leaning into that future. So it's amazing. Now, even though we've talked about all these things, we're not done yet.
Okay.
We have one more thing for you to do with you here, our rapid fire rewind.
I'm ready.
Ready? Iron City or Rolling Rock?
Rolling Rock.
What's your favorite Gen X band?
East Street Band.
All right.
Springsteen.
Three Rivers or Heinz Field?
Heinz Field.
Do you have a favorite Gen X movie?
Working Girl.
Okay.
Turner's or Schneider's?
Oh, Turner's. We were a Turner's family.
Isn't it funny? You only have to say those two words and everybody gets it.
Right.
Like anybody outside of Pittsburgh has no idea what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
we took a field trip there in school. We went out to Penn Hills to the. I saw a cow get milked. Okay.
I love it.
Now, given what you've told us about your experiences watching television growing up, I don't know if you'll have an answer to this question, but do you have a favorite Saturday morning cartoon?
Oh, the Jetsons.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I love the Jetsons.
Donzi's and Chauncey's or Metropole and Rosebud?
Decade. I'm sorry. I did go to, what was it? Chauncey's.
Chauncey's.
We went to Chauncey's. And that was down in the
Station
Square, right.
Yes.
Yeah,
With the floor and the.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I was more of a Decades.
Yeah. What was your first concert?
My first concert was America
Oh, okay.
at
Wow.
the Civic Arena. We went every year to.
Wow.
to,
You're the first
America.
person to answer America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Southside Beehive or Oakland Beehive?
Southside.
Atari or Nintendo?
I'm too old for that nonsense. No. I never really mastered that.
Yeah.
I play Wordle.
Okay. Okay.
Kennywood or Sandcastle?
Oh, Kennywood.
Kennywood, yes.
Kennywood.
Permanis or Pamela's?
Permanis.
Awesome. It was so good getting to know you,
Yes. You
too,
and
Valerie.
what
Thank
you're
you.
doing for Pittsburgh. We really appreciate it. And I think we're going to be taking a tour. We're going to do
Yes.
something very soon because that
Yes.
sounds like a lot of
Right.
fun.
Yeah,
Well, I
thank you
love
so
your
much.
curiosity and would love to have you.
That's great. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
David.
Really appreciate
Thank
you being
you.
here.
Mary
you.
Murrin, CEO and President of Rivers of Steel. Thank you so much.
Hosts for the Gen X Pittsburgh Podcast are David Rullo and Valerie Christoffel. Executive producer, David Rullo. Producer and graphic design, Kimberly Rullo. Producer, Valerie Christoffel. Video production and editor, Brent Isaac. Music by Neoscam. Sponsored by Potomac Station Coffee House and Con Alma.